Hi, Talbot. I hope you're all well and enjoying the beautiful weather. This week's psalm is Psalm 32, and it begins like this. Blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man against whom the Lord counts no iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no deceit. It's a wonderful thing as Christians to know the forgiveness of God. And even before Christ came, David knew of God's forgiveness. How wonderful and how great a gift it is. That even when we are guilty, God does not count our sin against us. But it's interesting, as the psalm continues, there's something that's key in the process of God's forgiveness. He next says, "For when I kept silent, my bones wasted away, through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was dried up as by the heat of summer." When we are in sin, when we're struggling with addiction, when we are walking in a way that we ought not to, the tendency for our hearts is to stay silent. It's to keep the wrong that we feel in us bottled up, to ignore it and to suppress it. But if anybody, as anybody knows who's experienced and walked that way, there's no life there. There's no life there. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. It eats away at you. It erodes and corrodes your being. And you end up a shell. And we see that pattern over and over and over again when we look at people and individuals whose life has been committed to walking in sin. They become shells of themselves. And yet, David attributes part of that to the silence, to not speaking, to keeping it inside. But what happens if we speak? Verse 5, I acknowledged my sin to you, and I did not cover my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the iniquity of my sin. Therefore, let everyone who is godly offer prayer to you at a time when you may be found. The solution in David's thought in this psalm is to speak, to confess, to share with God what you've done wrong, to offer it up freely to him and to be willing to engage with him. That's the solution, or at least that's step one of the solution. And it really is a difficult thing for us often to confess our sin, to admit we're wrong. When we're in sin, often we just don't want to say anything because we know we're wrong. We're like little children who know we've colored on the walls. No, that didn't happen this week, but we know we've colored on the walls. We know we shouldn't have. We know we're in trouble for it, and so we just say nothing and we hope nobody notices. But that is not the place where we find life. That's not a source of life. Instead, it corrodes us. The silence keeps us in bondage. But when we speak, when we're confessing, and most importantly, when we go to God, we interact with him, we seek him out, even for the purposes of confession. That's where God comes with his forgiveness and cleanses us and sets us free from the guilt and the shame that we feel. So as we think about that, and I want you to think about that, I want you to dwell on that, because we are going to get into this type of idea a little bit more on Sunday. The idea of going to God honestly and being honest and being unafraid to engage with him, because we know he is our good Father. We know he is willing to forgive. We know he is willing to be merciful and patient with us. Being willing to engage with God. Being willing to go to him even when it's not our first reaction. Think about that, ponder that. If there's something that you need to confess, I'd encourage you to confess. I'd encourage you to take it to the throne of God and really to engage with him in prayer while he still may be found. So I hope that encourages you. I hope it challenges you. I hope you have a wonderful week. God bless you, and we'll see you on Sunday.